Okay, these are visuals we are getting to you now from Prime Minister's UAE visit. Remember, he's meeting the Crown Prince there. But what is very significant is the kind of statement, the largest statement that Prime Minister Modi is making. He's on a two-day visit to the UAE. He's also expected to address the crowds, rather the Indians who've been staying abroad at about 8 in the evening today. But before that, this crucial meeting happening with the Crown Prince. A lot of important issues we are expected to be touched on when these two heads are going to be meeting. And Abhishek with us, tracking each and every detail on that big trip. Now, Abhishek, what could be perhaps be brewing between the two sides when Prime Minister Modi is now meeting the Crown Prince?
Well, the whole gamut of issues. In fact, what we have heard from our sources is that immediately after this meeting and during this meeting, in fact, the decision would be taken to upgrade the India-UAE relationship into a comprehensive strategic partnership. Now, when you use strategic partnership in the diplomatic lingo, it essentially means that mutual security concerns are taken into account. So you can expect that apart from energy security, for which India depends up to about 10% of its oil needs on UAE, and then the cultural connect because of the Indian expat community, then the investment that India needs from the UAE for its development needs, the strategic dimension will be added in this bilateral that is going to take place between the Prime Minister and Crown Prince Sheikh Mohamed bin Zayed and Al Nahyan. And the fact that the Crown Prince actually came to receive Prime Minister at the airport really underscores how seriously UAE is taking this visit. And as I mentioned, the strategic dialogue itself happening for the first time between India and UAE in the sense that a Prime Minister is visiting after a long gap, and both the sides have decided that the strategic partnership would be formalized and taken to the next level. So you can expect that the fact that UAE has a certain leverage in the Middle East being integral part of it. Also with Pakistan, the fact that it's going to become a strategic partnership essentially means that from here on, India's concerns so far as security goes would also be taken into account by UAE as well. So what details come out of it, we would have to wait for that till the time that we get the joint statement, which would be released immediately after the bilateral is over. And then, of course, the Foreign Secretary briefing at around 5:15 UAE time, which would be roughly about quarter to 7 India time, when the Foreign Secretary gives more details about what this strategic partnership or this strategic dialogue, what shape it would take. Back to you.
And you know, Abhishek, there's another very significant thing, another significant optic to this entire visit of Prime Minister Modi to the UAE. We do understand that the UAE and Pakistan, enjoy a close strategic relationship. Now, in the view of that relationship, how perhaps India would be able to balance another working relationship with the UAE, and how would perhaps UAE respond to India's concerns on that?
Well, that's what the whole strategic dialogue is to be about. That's what we are being told by our contacts. And the fact that for the first time UAE has agreed to highlight the strategic nature of the partnership, or really make that an important element of the whole comprehensive relationship that exists between the two nations, it makes it clear that UAE would agree to incorporate India's concerns in its foreign policy. For example, I must tell you that some months back, UAE has passed a legislation which bans hate speech. Now, UAE very vocally and publicly has taken a stand against extremism of any kind. So if that gels well with India's stand that terrorism of any kind is going to harm the world, not just one or two nations, that really means coming together of points of view of the two nations. And if that can be incorporated, for example, in the joint statement by way of condemning terror of any kind, that would be a big achievement, coming as it does from a nation of Middle East taking cudgels on behalf of India or sharing India's views on terrorism would be a big plus and a big achievement and a big takeaway for the Indian side from this visit.
And Abhishek, also explain this to us. When Prime Minister Modi says that there is a lot of potential in the UAE-India relationship in terms of investment, in terms of infrastructure, how important is that, considering he says that all the leading institutions like the IMF, the World Bank, and the Moody's agree that India is world's fastest growing economy? He's also talking about how the low-cost housing in India perhaps is seeing a boom, and how UAE can be a partner to that.
Deepti, you have to see it in the context of what's happening around the world. China is slowing down, Brazil is not going anywhere. And so if you see this Brexit scenario where Russia has not much to offer, India is the only shining light. And in that context, UAE flush with funds of over $800 billion of its sovereign wealth fund, and then, of course, a private enterprise. In fact, the Prime Minister, when he interacted with the business community here, mentioned about $1 trillion worth of opportunity by way of investments in India. So clearly, Prime Minister has come with a clear mind as to what he expects from this community. And maybe after this visit, there would be more clarity on in the minds of the people here of how to go about it in India.
All right, Abhishek, for the moment, many thanks for getting us those details.